Howdy Tabletop RPG fans, thank you for supporting this channel. I'm Rangomi, Grand Poobah of Game Design, and this Reviews Day topic is the Dungeons & Dragons 4E Cartoony Style. In 2001, I started work on the Game Boy Advance version of Dungeons & Dragons Eye of the Beholder. This would use the D&D 3rd edition rules. We were able to cram in quite a few character classes, spells, monsters, and all the new combat rules that made sense in a turn-based isometric RPG battle game. I got very good at the 3rd edition rules, and we finally published in 2003. When the 3.5 edition rules came out a few months later, much of the game was the same, but we all bought those new books anyway. By 2007, when the 4th edition books started coming out, I was very busy running a video game studio with 45 employees and working on Zorro for the Wii, along with several other video games. I was intrigued, but didn't rush out to purchase the new books. The financial crisis hit the next year, and I had to shut down that studio. In 2009, I asked folks at a new video game studio where I worked if they were interested in playtesting a new idea I had. I'd read about the 4th edition and many people talking about how it played very much like the World of Warcraft and other video game RPGs. This intrigued me again. Could I incorporate video game ideas into a simple RPG like Microlight 20? So I focused on incorporating the best of what I'd read about the 4th edition and what I already knew about video game RPGs into a new tabletop RPG. It wasn't until 2012 when I actually played in my first official D&D 4th edition game at DunderCon, The Return of Daffy Duck the Wizard by Seacog Productions. This was a wild and far different from what I'd read about. The powers, the skill tests, the character sheets were all very cartoony and extremely simple. It was a perfect introduction to the D&D 4E and an easy way to pick up gaming at a convention. I asked what inspired the DM, and he mentioned the amazing new Looney Tunes shows with fantasy-inspired tunes, and this amazing collection of character sheets from James Stowe called D&D for Dads, with cartoon versions of characters in a stripped-down version that was super accessible to kids. James Stowe first published these via his blog and Twitter announcement on September 2011. And it was such a hit, he immediately published many more character sheets, including ones for girl characters and monsters. Wizards of the Coast had attempted to do a kids' version of 4E in 2010 called Monster Slayers that was freely downloadable from their website. But this was 100 times better production values than Wizards of the Coast used. The WotC Monster Slayer characters weren't much more than stat blocks with some basic 4E rules. James's characters were wonky, endearing, and leapt off the page with excitement. The rules were all encapsulated into your character sheet. A player wouldn't need anything else, and the Dungeon Master had all of D&D to draw from. In James's own words, these character sheets were designed by James Stowe so that he could run Dungeons & Dragons with his 8-year-old son and his son's friends. He made the PDF after the overwhelming response to the low-res PNG files he posted to his blog, jamesstowe.blogspot.com. In 2018, James used some of the ideas and the same art style to build out another rules-light, kids-friendly RPG called Sidekick Quests, but that's another story and another video. There was a good variety of characters with lots of fun traits that new players, especially kids, could get into easily. Many of the characters could summon monsters or use magical powers that aided in their abilities. Because of the inclusive nature and popularity of these character sheets, this technique became a popular way to make other 4E one-shot adventures more accessible to casual players. The silly caricatures and background stories were accompanied with simple stats, skills, defenses, and color-coded powers for at-will, encounter, and daily use. Every character also had a perk that was some unique ability just to them. This made these simple 4E character sheets as easy to read as the text from a trading card game. Along with skill challenge system in 4E, the Dungeon Master could rapidly conduct new players through an epic adventure and have everyone feel like they contributed to the storytelling. James may have been the first one to depict the battle wheelchair when he made this character sheet for the Mighty Cruise for a player named Eric Cruz almost a decade ago. I'm not sure if Eric came up with the battle wheelchair idea, but it is a great idea. The powers included Battering Ram, Veteran's Wisdom, Rollin' Ram, and Cruise Missile. Yes, that's what I said. Once a day, you can fire a missile that always hits for 30 damage. Simply amazing, and there are now rules for 5e and some great 3D printable models from Strata Miniatures. To the left is the stat blocks for pets or monsters that the players can summon. Then I was a bit confused when I first found the matching monsters. They had the logo for Sidekick Quest, but the fact that they were monster stat blocks and they actually matched the simple cartoon style that James's character sheets had. These were the monsters for the player character sheets. The monsters had the same basic stat blocks as the players, including basic hit points, speed, initiative, and at-will encounter or daily powers. Many of the monsters have also special notes about drawbacks or loot tables. Since the 5th edition of D&D released in 2012, I've heard many times about the problems with 4E, that it was too video game friendly, too mechanical in its combat or powers, or that it used powers at all instead of the classic D&D spells or monster abilities. While I never played a different version of D&D 4E than what was on these simplified character sheets, I enjoyed every adventure and welcomed the fact that I didn't have to read a 317-page book to play. This episode is brought to you by Kaboomkin, the smaller, faster, funnier RPG of cartoon fairy tale post-apocalypse mayhem. It's time to blow stuff up. Get it now at www.kaboomkin.com. Thank you all for watching this episode. Hit like, subscribe, or ring the bell, or Booger will get you. If you want to see more videos like this, go to hopspush.com and buy an RPG or t-shirt. Do good, annoy evil, and bye-bye.